what we perceive this world to be, which is an external reality of physicality, is actually the figment of our, not the figment of our imagination in and of itself, but the figment of our manipulated imagination. We're being fed a fake reality in the form of energetic waveform information, just like Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. And like the computer, we are decoding that into a completely different form on the screen of the computer in this case, but in the human case, in our heads. We are like computer terminals, mm-hmm. in effect, that are turning this wave field information into the form that we perceive as an external world. And if you do that without being yourself conscious of the fact that that's happening, or at least conscious of something greater, mm-hmm. if you're only operating on the level of the five senses, the body senses, then you are pretty much literally a computer.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're taking this information, you're processing it through the five senses, and how we do that, we can get into maybe, and you're turning it into a reality. You are not impacting upon that reality. That reality is impacting on you. You're literally, I call them presenter people. But what happens if you become conscious, as we all can and we all should be, and we all are beyond the illusion? Mm-hmm. You become conscious beyond the five senses. The more conscious beyond the five senses you become, you start to override the program.
Yes.
And suddenly you start to develop a questioning, yes, but also a uniqueness. You start to express the uniqueness, because we all may be a point of attention, as I call it, within an infinite state of awareness, but we are a unique mm-hmm. point of attention. We are uniquely individual as well as all connected. And that uniqueness starts to come out as you start to override the program. If you don't override the program, then you're just like everyone else.
Yeah.
Manipulate that disconnection,
yes,
between expanded awareness, what people might call soul, and the five senses that interact with this reality directly.
And I think that they of course they understand full well the proclivity for humans to want to strive towards this, this greater feeling and this camaraderie with their human family, and they prey on that. That's what all the, keep your grandmother safe. That's what all the messaging comes from. All the virtue signaling, as it's the kind of the pop culture name for this, comes from their full understanding of the fact that human beings do strive for this. We're wired for it, but what happens is we lose unfortunately we lose touch with our, the most important sense, our sixth sense, and we get enamored with the five senses. And the five senses are great, especially if you like ice cream and you like to play sports, and it's amazing, but by far that is not what reality is. And yet we're in a society that is continually reinforcing and conditioning that that's all it is, right? And that goes back to Darwin, I think, and I wanted to ask,
that Darwin a whole belief system was to tell you that you are only your five senses. There is nothing else. It's just, that's what you are. And overwhelmingly, that is the perception that drives mainstream science. You have quantum physics, but most other disciplines, they have to acknowledge quantum physics because it exists, but they crack on in their own discipline as if it doesn't exist. They go on, everything, medicine, everything is based an absolute illusion that's not real. Like we live in a solid world, a solid reality. We have a solid body. It's like if you believe that the computer is real in terms of it's you, then you're going to get caught in believing absolute nonsense. But when you can see, actually, this is me and this is the computer, this is what taps me into the internet, but I am something else. Once you start to believe that you are the computer and there's no division, that's an important point, because that's exactly where we're being taken. We're being taken down a road increasingly quickly, and Elon Musk is involved in all this. People like Ray Kurzweil at Google are involved in all this. All the Silicon Valley giants are involved in this. Zuckerberg with his metaverse, etc.
Meta, yeah.
Yeah, they are seeking to obscure the line where the computer ends and we start. So they're drawing us into cyberspace. So cyberspace becomes increasingly our reality. And every time you self-identify with this cyber world, not that, like I say, you are consciousness having a human experience, and you are interacting with the computer and you're going on the internet, but it's the internet. This is a computer. Do you know it's not you? So you have this sense of where the divisions lie. But what they're doing is they're pulling people more and more into the computer cyberspace world, starting off with the smartphones, then the technology that goes on your body, the wearables, and now increasingly what they call implantables, and these headsets which take you into this metaverse reality. And what it's doing all the time, if you look at it, and I go into this in the books in detail, they have to, those, and we can discuss who they are, but those that are seeking to enslave humanity in totality, even down to what we think, they have to prevent us from tapping into expanded levels of awareness. Because once you do, you see it. You see it. You don't see dots anymore that appear to be random. You see the pattern. You see the picture. You see what's going on. And you are able to then override this program, this computer program that we call the body, and impact upon it. But if you don't, the program runs you. And that's why most people tend to not live life, but have life live them, because the program is driving their life, right. It's driving their decisions, it's driving their
they're a reaction, which is exactly how they want things. They're not in a creator state, they're in a reactive state.
But where I was going to go with this is, as more and more people are awakening, as you well know, that the effort is to push people more and more and more away from that and into the myopia of the cyberspace reality. And another aspect of this is, because it's all about self-identity in the end, control of self-identity, it's control of perception and control of self-identity. What we perceive, that dictates how we behave. So if you get what people perceive, you get how they behave. But also, it's self-identity. If I'm self-identifying as consciousness, having a human experience, then that taps me into that level of awareness that is beyond the illusion. So I can see the illusion because I'm actually looking at it from one point in my consciousness, from beyond the illusion. I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world. And the idea is to manipulate humans so they become in the world and of the world. That's why they want us in this 5-sense state. So the more myopic our self-identity can be manipulated to be, the further we're going to withdraw from the true self into what I call the phantom self, the human self as an I rather than as an experience of the true I. And so this woke whole agenda, where you have these letters getting longer and longer all the time, LGBT, on and on and on it goes.
Yeah.
What it's doing, if you look at it from the perspective that we're talking about, is it's focusing self-identity into smaller and smaller and smaller perceptions of self. So now you've got, you say to someone, even, years ago, who are you? They'd say, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm from this religion, I have this income, I do this job, and so on. I come from this city or wherever. And they would be your labels of a human life. But they're still labels. They're still not who you are. They're still only experiences that your consciousness is having briefly. But what they're doing now is so making myopic the self-identity of people, especially the young who are being prepared for what's coming, that people self-identify the I, who they are, with their preferred sexuality. And so people's sense of self is being manipulated to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you then start putting these headsets on, and what are they doing? These headsets, they are, especially if you do the most sophisticated of these virtual reality technologies, where you wear the gloves which give you the touch sense,
right,
and the audio and the sight sense, the headset. What is that doing? It's hacking into the five senses. It's hacking into the five senses to override the world the five senses would normally decode into a sense of reality. And I've said this, I've just got a new book out called The Trap, in which go deeper in the rabbit hole than I've ever been. But I said in that book, if you were in the womb with a headset on, and you come out into the world still with a headset on, and you go through your life, and you don't lose the headset until the end, then what are you going to do? You're going to believe that what that headset is feeding you in terms of information and reality is real. That's what you're going to believe. Of course you are. Absolutely. You see with these virtual reality games where people put the headsets on, and maybe they're in a room like this, and they put it on, and suddenly they're thrashing around. There's nothing going on in the room.
No.
They're thrashing around because the information being fed to their brain is overriding this reality. And so it's...
when we know the mind can't tell the difference. The mind has it's difficult to perceive the difference. And if you look at it, you'll see it's firing in much the same way would if that was happening in real life. So, it's a literal jacking.
The metaverse, the pulling you further into cyberspace, is to what they call it. You have an avatar. Well, let's have a look at that. This is an avatar, if you like. It's a vehicle for consciousness to experience this reality, which is a very narrow band of frequency. But then you go and you have an avatar to go into the metaverse. So now you are an avatar within an avatar. Now you're in a maze. Now you're in another maze. And the idea is that people eventually lose their entire sense of reality. In an expanded state of reality, you can look at your human experience and you can see it for what it is. A brief human experience in a tiny band of frequency we call the human world. And then we move on. But then if you're body-centric, five-sense-centric, well, that's all gone. That sense of perspective has gone. Now it's the five senses that are dictating your reality in interaction with this human world, as we call it. Then you go into the metaverse, and now your sense of reality is a maze within a maze. So the idea is you're going to completely lose a sense of the I, and once you lose the sense of the I, you lose you, and that's what we're doing. You know, consciousness in its expanded state would look at the human world and go, "Oh
My God.
oh my God!"
You know,
But to the five sense level of perception, the craziness, the idiocy, the extraordinary stupidity that goes on in this world is perfectly normal.
right. That's
Why wouldn't you drop bombs on this country? And why wouldn't they drop bombs on you? I mean, consciousness is going, oh my God, what are you
right.
doing?
This is what we know. This is what we're taught. And that's, you know, and that's one of the reasons why I think that they needed Darwin. Well, they needed to take what Darwin was doing and really make it their own, was to create a world where they could be a part of, a world they could rule, really, for lack of a better way to describe what has gone on. Because, you know, this notion of survival of the fittest and dog eat dog and, you know, shit on you for me to get what I want, that is the belief system they needed installed in the human consciousness in order to come to the power that they, you know, we would eventually see them come to. And I know that's shaking loose now, thanks to a lot of awakening. And, you know, it's like you always say, they have to stick their head up eventually. And recent events have caused them to do that on a larger scale than ever before. And you're going to continue to see that. The question is, how many people will be awake enough when they do to say, wait a minute. If 99 people don't want war, how do we continuously have and find a way to go to war? What is going on? If everyone wants peace, why is it so elusive? Well, that's a great question, you know, and you answer that question over and over in your books, to the point where, you know, I got to stop buying highlighters. I keep going using them up and throwing them out and getting a new one. But my God, do you bring the details and the evidence, the documentation together for anyone to see? If you want to see exactly how we got to where we are, it's all in David's books. I can't recommend them enough.